Well, welcome to the badge. The badge, you say, it used to be the sheriff's report. Well, we're making some changes, and today's the first day, although it is kind of the sheriff's report. We're going to be alternating between Craig Meidel, our police chief in Spokane City, and Ozzy and John Knowles, who is undersheriff, is sitting in for Ozzy because Ozzy's in Scotland and England and a couple of other places. He's enjoying some time away with his wife and so forth. Well deserved. He puts in the hours, as you will be doing soon. But it's a new program, and we want to answer some of your questions, and we're going to do that today on the crime issue in Spokane and how come we have so many repeat offenders and so forth. We'll be right back after this.
This is Dave Reynolds with Source Real Estate. Our secret is our 1% listing fee. All the services, marketing, photography, and more for a 1% listing fee, saving you thousands. May the source be with you. 999-8878 and visit sourcerealestate.com.
This is River Ridge Frame Shop, called Frame It Today, where we can take your art, customize it, and get it ready to hang on the wall. Here at River Ridge Hardware, 2803 West Garland.
Well, welcome back. As I mentioned when I opened the show, we're making some changes. We're expanding from the sheriff's report to a program called The Badge. And it's going to include at times police department and at times the sheriff's department and then at times together even. And so today we have John Knowles, under sheriff of Spokane County Sheriff's Department. And you're kind of in charge right now, aren't you, with Ozzy gone?
Yeah, that's correct. I do get the opportunity to come in and cover for Ozzy while he's out of the country right now.
Yeah.
And get to talk about important things.
Yes. And you and I talked about what would be the first topic of the program with you as host and the program being called The Badge. And it's about crime, property crime in Spokane. We don't sometimes hear a lot about it. We hear about maybe the shootings and some other things, but we have some growth. You know, at times you want growth, but not in crime, okay? We want the economy to grow, not the economy of crime. Of crime, yes. Right. Tell me about some of that, because you were mentioning before we went on some good statistics in terms of that really tell the story.
Well, we do, and I think we educate the public about what's going on inside their communities.
Yes.
Yes, property crimes do matter. It's something that we in the sheriff's office take very seriously. But as an addition to just talking about the crime statistics, property crime statistics, I also think it's important that people understand how some of our property crimes end up driving some of our violent crime numbers,
yes,
which are up, and I'll get to the statistics on where we're at here pretty quickly, and then how maybe some of the policies enacted at the state level affect our ability to keep our local communities safe.
And so much comes down from the state legislature, doesn't it?
It does.
You've got elected officials who are representing their constituency all around the state, but are not experts or on the ground seeing what's going on and trying to be fair. But my personal approach is that we're not being fair with those who are hit by these property crimes and others. We're trying to be over fair with the criminals.
I agree with your assessment, and I want to be very clear. I'm not blaming anyone for the circumstances we're finding ourselves in, but I think it's important that the public understands how the entirety of the criminal justice system works, and if they're educated about what causes some of these crimes and what allows people to recidivate,
right,
and how we're not necessarily holding the right people accountable to a level that we should, they can make better decisions and ask better questions of their legislatures,
yes,
of their judicial candidates, of their prosecutorial candidates, of their sheriff candidates.
Right.
So they can figure out who is going to support community safety the best. And again, it's not so much about blaming, because this is an incredibly complex criminal justice system that we have, and it's never just one thing.
No,
but there are things we can tweak that can make a
There are trends, aren't there?
There are trends. And,
Yes.
and so one of the things I'll talk about is one of the things we're hearing from the community, and one of the things that we're seeing in all of our data is that violent crime is up in both the city of Spokane and in Spokane County. And I'll give you the latest numbers from the sheriff's office, which is everything but the city of Spokane, right? The entire outlying areas, the county of
But it'll
Spokane,
be representative
Spokane
of the
Valley.
whole area, really, when it comes down to
Correct.
it.
So as of this week, our criminal homicide rate is up 67% over last year, which was already high.
Wait. Murders?
Criminal homicides, we have had 5 this year.
Oh, wow.
Which is this time last year, we had only had 3. So we're trending up significantly, 67%. Our negligent manslaughter, up 200%. Now, granted, that just means we have 2 more this year, and we had none by this time last year.
Oh,
but,
okay.
but still, it's a trend up, right?
Yeah.
Rapes are up 28%. Aggravated assaults are up 9% over last year. Simple assault, which are misdemeanor assaults, up 3%. Property crimes, residential burglaries up 8%. Commercial burglaries up 13%. Theft, which is non-shoplifting, up 5%. Shoplifting is up 4%. Vehicle theft up 48% over this time last year.
48%.
48%.
Yes.
That's
And we've seen
significant.
a lot of that in pictures in the newspaper and on TV reporting. And
Yes. These crimes have victims. Year to date, 294 vehicles have been stolen in Spokane County.
Oh, wow.
That's 294 people who've had their car, their ability to get to work, their ability to take their kids to school. It's been taken away from them.
That's John, that's 100% increase for those individuals.
It is.
Okay? And their ability to get to work and all the other things that take their kids to soccer, to take their kids to school, to all the other kinds of things that we want to do in life when their vehicle is stolen.
That's right. That's right. And, you know, a lot has been made recently about legislation that was passed and then changed and revised and what effects those might have on crime.
Right.
And I think those are important discussions, but I think it's also important for the public to recognize that those are not the sole factors that allow our crime to increase. And I will tell you, we're working on a project right now, and I'll talk about some of the data here, some of the preliminary data we have, where we are trying to examine our most prolific chronic offenders in Spokane County, and
I'll bet you've got a couple, don't you?
we do. And so what we asked our analysts to do is take a look back to 2017, and I'll tell you the individuals that we looked at. We wanted to develop a list of people based on these criteria. Any individual that had committed a crime against a person in the last 5 years and been arrested for it in the last 5 years. Also, any individual that had 2 crimes against persons arrested in the last 5 years and had more than 9 arrests in our local system. And then the third criteria was any individual that had 1 crime against a person arrest in the last 5 years and had more than 19 local arrests in our system. So we're talking about people who have been arrested multiple times for serious crimes. Crimes against persons are your violent assaults, your assaults, your rapes, your homicides, your robberies, things like that. Not burglaries, right? Not property crimes. These are crimes against people. These are significant crimes that are out of control right now.
Okay.
So we took a list of those people, and we came up with 65 individuals in our local
65?
database. Correct.
Not just a couple, but 65.
65 people who met those criteria here in Spokane County. And we decided to take a deep dive into their criminal history and find out what they're being arrested for, if they're being released out on bond, how accountable they're being held by the criminal justice system, and if that allows them to commit crime while they're out on bail, or if they would have otherwise been incarcerated, how the policies set forth by the state and within the criminal justice system affect our ability to keep the community safe.
If they'd been incarcerated, they wouldn't have committed additional crimes, at least during that period of incarceration, right?
Right. Sure. The thrust of this whole study is that if these people were held accountable to
Right.
even the laws that are on the books, likely they wouldn't have been able to commit some of the crimes that were committed subsequent to them being arrested. And go ahead.
What I hear you saying, and this is my interpretation, is that some of the issues really come down to the judicial system in not holding these folks accountable. Am I on base at all?
Well, partly, yes. And,
Okay.
and again, this isn't about laying blame on judges or the judicial system, but it's complicated. So people have to understand that the police arrest people.
Yeah.
We have laws that are written by the
Right.
legislature first, right? They pass the laws. They also set the sentencing guidelines,
Okay, right.
sentencing standards, and things like that. Most people don't realize that that's who creates those policies.
Right, and the judges try to follow
The
that.
judges
of
have
course.
to follow it,
Yeah.
actually, and they have to have a very compelling reason to operate either above those sentencing guidelines or to operate below them.
Okay.
But for the most part, those guidelines are set
Right.
by the legislature. So the prosecutors hold these people accountable. They prosecute them. If they're found guilty, they get to argue for a certain sentencing range. The public defender gets to argue for a different sentencing
Sure.
range, right? And that's the nature of our system, and that's the tension. And the judges get
And
to
we
hear
want
both.
that to be fair.
We absolutely need it to be fair,
Absolutely.
right? It's the Constitution. Our,
Yes.
our
Yes.
justice system is founded on these principles. So, and it's
Absolutely.
incredibly appropriate. And our judges, they have these guidelines, and they get to determine, okay, whose argument was more compelling. I take a look at this person as an individual, and I have to decide, okay, do I release them on bond during their initial hearing?
Okay.
Do I not? Is it not safe to release this
Right.
person back into the community? And then once a jury or a judge has determined guilt, or if somebody pleads guilty, then the judge has to decide, based on this person's criminal history and
Right.
based on the offenses, these are the standard sentencing guidelines, and this is the amount of time the person
Right.
spends in local jail if it's less than 365 days, or if they go to the state prison system somewhere else.
Okay.
Okay, so incredibly complicated. But what we found when we worked,
But it's to protect everybody.
it is to
I
protect
mean, the
everybody.
system is
and-
there to be fair.
Correct.
Yeah.
The criminal justice system is to make sure that
Justice.
justice is served.
Yes.
Right. There's a reason
Yes.
that is in there, and we need to protect our citizens first. That's the reason the criminal justice
Right.
system exists. Now, the Department of Corrections and what happens with people after they're convicted or while they're in jail, it is their job to make sure that we're providing the support for people who are in that system to help them not recidivate.
Yeah.
So what we found when we looked at these 65 people, and it has taken months for us to cull through their criminal histories, and
I
what
can
we have
only
found
imagine.
over and over is that these 65 offenders who are committing violent crimes against people in our community, they are not being held accountable by the criminal justice system in a way that prevents them from recidivating. These people are being released back into the
So
community.
the failure is beyond local, basically, for the most part. It's more state, or if they're in for 364 days or something, what we can or can't do to help them locally.
Correct. Well, and it's both. We have multiple. I'll give you one example of an individual here in Spokane who met these criteria, and I'm obviously not going to provide this individual's name, but from 2017, and this person had a history that stretches back to when they were a juvenile. Prior to 17, this history included robbery, burglary, vehicle theft, fraud, identity theft, shoplifting, assault, and vehicular assault. And I guarantee you, this person we have been dealing with since they were a juvenile. We knew this person was on this path.
Yeah, yeah.
Multiple arrests.
I've got to ask the question.
Yes, sir.
Doesn't it hurt as an officer, as head of a department and so forth, to know where this young person is going and you can't do anything to help?
Correct.
You know what I mean?
and-
It's got to be difficult to know, I know where he or she is going.
Correct.
Yeah.
And to be honest, in this individual's case, in my opinion, there was a familial issue there. The family unit was not was not such that this person was going to receive the support they
Right.
needed to not
Right.
lead a life of crime. There was a whole lot of other issues and
But
things
isn't
like
that
that.
the case an awful lot, though?
A lot.
You know,
It is.
we see young men growing up with no fathers at home. Okay.
Yes.
And we have some programs like Big Brothers and Big Sisters and other things, but we need more of that, because if they're missing a parent at home, and poor mom is trying her best, often with a couple kids, but we need as a community to have more volunteers to help with that.
We do. Certainly,
Yeah.
certainly this individual and probably many of these 65
Might have been
people
helped.
need appropriate influences, appropriate
Yes.
mentors in their lives. And I think when we start talking about let's get at the root cause of
Yes.
some criminality, that certainly plays a huge factor. And I think that is something that can and should be addressed in the criminal justice system, and as a community, we certainly can. But I will say there is a role for arrest. There is a
Yes.
role for incarcerating people. And what we're talking about here is the most chronic offenders in
Yes.
our community, the most
Yeah.
chronic 65 people who we need to quit letting out of
Yeah,
jail,
it's
because
past.
they've shown that they will re-offend.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we have to give our judges the tools to let them hold
Yes.
people in custody. We need to stop this narrative of, well, we can't prove that they're going to go out and re-offend, or we don't have enough jail space, so we need to release them. No, the community's had
fix
enough.
that.
There's 65 people that we've identified that when they get arrested, they need to not be released back out into the community. And I'll give you an example here. And this particular individual committed 2 property crimes back in 2017, was released out on bond, and by the time that they got out 3 months later, committed a violent felony crime against a person. If this
no.
person had been held accountable for those 2 property crimes and at least held in custody for 3 months, maybe they wouldn't have committed that crime against a person, which happened to be second-degree assault is what they were arrested
Yes.
for. And frankly, received 22 days in custody for the property crimes that they committed before they committed that robbery.
Yeah.
22 days was all they received for it. This person's history goes on and on and on for the next 5 years to eventually commit 2 more violent felonies of robbery first degree, assault second degree, and vehicular assault. And the stats show that if this person had been held accountable and at least held in custody for
Right,
the
right.
sentencing range that they would have been eligible for, they wouldn't have been able to commit the crimes against the people that they committed later.
The logic to figure that out is not very difficult. Okay?
Correct.
Even on some of those who want all this police reform and everything else out there. What worries me is, honestly, is that these people are out, and the next crime they may commit is against not only a person, but against a deputy or a policeman or something else, and one of them gets shot.
And we absolutely
You know
hope
what I mean?
that doesn't occur, but
No, I know.
but it certainly could. But what this person in
But
particular, and
with those 65, it's more likely to.
it is absolutely more likely. And I don't want to make it sound like they only committed crimes against persons after this first separate. No, their record is littered with property crimes, drug crimes, property crimes, and things like that that they were arrested for in between these crimes against persons. And nobody is holding them accountable, and they get out and they re-offend.
So we need to be asking some tough questions of our legislators as they come up for re-election. All the representatives in Washington State will be up. Half the senators will be up this time around, this fall, and this August for the primary as well. We need to be asking some tough questions and not just go, oh, that's nice. No, we need to ask some questions, because if the laws are being made in Olympia, they need to be stronger with some teeth. And then we need to also maybe be looking at, this is my opinion, some judges. Yesterday I counted 8 district judges positions that are up for election in the primary and in the general election this year. And I don't know much about many of them. I know one that I've endorsed before, but the other 7 I don't know. I'm going to be looking up their records, okay? I should be a smart voter, not just because I like their name or I've seen their poster or something, but we need to ask some questions of these people. Where do you stand? And if the answer is, well, I need stronger sentencing guidelines, I want to hear that. wherever the blame may be placed, okay? But let's have this discussion in this community. It's our kids. It's my grandkids that I'm worried about, okay? It's my friend's car that was stolen and can't take his or her spouse to work and take the kids to school and so forth. Yeah, it's just a car. You can replace it. The insurance company will cover it and all that. Yes, but it's their livelihood too. Okay,
That's correct. It has a huge impact on
yeah,
our lives.
and getting to the soccer game to watch their kids on Saturday. I mean, does that sound important? It does sound important to all of us as parents. So we need to start asking some tough questions this election.
I think you're 100% on point. I think we as citizens need to be good consumers
Yes.
of data. You know, something we talked about
Right.
before we started the show is, you know, we're told by the media by and large and by certain legislators and governors and things like that, you know, we have this incarceration nation and that we are incarcerating far too many people, but people don't understand. And they're told our prison system is at or over capacity. But the reality of it is in the Washington state here, we have systematically over the last 10 years reduced the number of jail beds that we have available in the state of Washington. So when people talk about our jail occupancy rate, it seems very, very high, but they don't realize that overall we have drastically reduced the number of jail beds and prison beds. And how have we done that? Because we've taken people like these 56 people we identified.
65.
I'm sorry, 65. I got a little dyslexic there. These 65 people, and we're not holding them in prison for as long as we could. They've changed the policies to where their sentencing guidelines are reduced. Their time that they serve has been reduced for good time. During COVID, we released people. The day they sentenced, they received half time off just so we didn't have to incarcerate them. Yeah. The effect is this. Our streets are not as safe as they were 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Yeah. It drives violent crime, period. We have the evidence, we have the data. These people are not being held accountable, and as a result, there are real victims in Spokane County and in our communities that could have been avoided.
But we always forget, often, not always, but we often forget about the victims and what is done to help them. And we need to be there for them too, to stand with them in court, to whatever it may be, to help them out. Because someday it may happen to us.
Correct.
Okay. And more likely, based on what you've been saying. I want to talk about the jail as we get into the fall period of time. So
Let's do it.
We'll do that later. But John, thank you. You've got, you're holding down the fort while Ozzy's wearing his kilt and all of that.
Correct.
That's not a picture I really want to see.
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine that myself.
Okay, get that out of your mind, everybody.
Maybe before he leaves, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, John, thank you for stepping up. For the public, to be fair, I have endorsed you. I think you are the person. I know some of the others that are running, but you are the man. I have enjoyed talking to you when we've just had a chance to talk. You care. You have a great family. All the things that are important to all of us in the community. And thank you for stepping up, because your life is going to be different soon.
It is. Thank you very much.
Already for the politicking, but I mean as
correct.
sheriff, okay?
Yeah. And do so willingly, because I care about Spokane. Being a lifelong resident.
I know that.
We have to do the right things for the right reasons and work together to make this place better.
Thank you. And we'll see you next time on The Badge Report. Have a good day, everybody.